what is your name?
My name is Baird.
And what made you want to serve?
Well, at that time, the Vietnam War was going on. My older brother, was in the United States Navy. And back then in 1967, they were drafting basically everybody at that time. And so I knew I was going to be drafted. So I called my brother and I basically said, "How do you like the Navy?" And he said, "I really like that branch of the military." So I thought, well, I think I'll just join the Navy.
Okay. And how did you and others around you, like your family, feel about you wanting to serve in the military?
Well, I came from a very large family, and so my brother was already in the Navy. So I think my parents just felt that that was something that's what we did as young men back in that generation, back in the mid-60s and late 60s. So, I mean, it wasn't anything that they agonized over. They just said, okay, well, you do need to serve the country. And so off I went.
Okay, and what were some interesting stories did you heard or even did while serving?
Well, I mean, I guess it depends on whether you're asking me about the fun times when we went into all the different ports like Hong Kong and Bangkok and places I'd never been before. Back then it was join the Navy and see the world, and so that was always very exciting. But as far as the serving on the ship when we were actually over in the Gulf of Tonkin, the sort of the situation where we were sort of helping shoot gunfire support for the Marines that were on the shore, and also chasing aircraft carriers to make sure that no harm came to them, were very interesting times for me. Watching aircraft take off and land on aircraft carriers wasn't something I saw much of in Missouri when I was growing up, so that was sort of an amazing feat also.
That sounds cool. And what were some best or positive things that you did that helped you overcome hard times, if you had any?
I don't remember any really hard times. That I was a young, naive young man at the time as far as world experiences. Having to leave Paula for extended periods of time was sort of a hardship for me, and so we didn't have the phones or any of the instant communication, so communicating by letter, and we'd actually sometimes record little tapes, but getting those on and off the ship took a little bit of time, so that was a hardship. But as far as that, I don't think I really suffered many hardships. I enjoyed my time in the service and met a lot of good men and women from all over the United States.
Yeah, and to continue on that question, did you make any friends too? If you still talk to them today?
I don't. I have not stayed in communication. I went to Officer Candidate School in Newport, Rhode Island from about October of '67 until about April of '68. And so I knew those young men that trained, but once we got our assignments, we dispersed all over the world, basically. And then the people that I served on board the ship, we all went our own direction after we left the service. So I went off to law school in Missouri, and they all dispersed basically back to their hometowns or their states where they grew up, and we did not stay in touch with each other. Once again, we didn't have Facebook or email or anything like that.
Yeah.
It was hard to stay in touch.
Okay, and what places did you travel during those times you were serving?
Well, I started in Newport, Rhode Island. I was there for, I believe that was 5 months. and then I was deployed to Long Beach, California, and then from Long Beach to the Gulf of Tonkin. Now when we were over there, we put into Japan, we put into Hong Kong, we put into the Philippine Islands, and we went to places like that. But for the deployment, most of the time we were at sea in the Gulf of Tonkin. The first 68 deployment, when I went over in 1968 for 6 months, we'd be at sea for 30 or 40 days at a time before we'd go back into port. And so mostly we were at sea at that time. And in those days, in 68, we were still involved with North Vietnam. And so we were firing gunfire support for troops in North Vietnam. And so that's where I spent the majority of our time.
Okay, and then last thing is just, or actually to continue it, how was your trips to those different like countries? Like, did you enjoy them? Like, how was like the climate there?
It was sort of back in those days. Those were sort of some of the, they called it the sort of the ugly Americans back in those days. Sort of, they weren't necessarily enthralled with us, but all the ports we put into, Hong Kong and Japan, Bangkok, and those places, all very friendly people and very enjoyable to be there. You might only be over there on the shore for 10 hours and then back to the ship, so we didn't like stay on the shore overnight or anything like that. You always had to come back to the ship. So very short periods of time there, but very enjoyable. I've never seen big cities like that in foreign countries, so it's enjoyable.
And then last but not least, what's a lesson that you just learned and just still carry on today?
Well, I think this was my first time full-time job, so I became accustomed to having to apply discipline and be focused on what you were doing, and also how to lead maybe 24 young men that were younger than me, even some of them older than me. That was a lesson I learned, and I still try to apply some of that to what I did before I retired in the field of law. So try to use those skills that they taught me. So that's probably the biggest one.
And was it like hard to like adapt to being like just getting disciplines, just like conducting others?
No, that didn't seem to be an issue with me or others. I mean, in the military back then, if you gave an order or received an order, you just followed that order out. And so that was, if they didn't want to follow the orders, there was discipline applied. And you'd have a uniform code of military justice, and if you violated that code, then they could give you some sort of a penalty or sanction for not doing what you should have been doing. So, but otherwise, no.
So I'm guessing like you didn't really, like, it wasn't that hard to do.
Well, it was, I mean, it was long hours when we were, like, you work up to become an officer of the deck, and so that means you get to give the orders of how the ship's going to go, how fast it's going to go, where it's going to go, what direction it's going to go, etc. like that. So long hours, and that was hard. But, and at night, you know, you see anything, so you're navigating with radar and stuff like that. But as far as doing it, I didn't find it hard or difficult. I found it challenging, but it was also a lot of fun to go alongside of another ship and you're only 100 feet away and you don't want to run into each other.
Yeah.
The first time I was there and becoming an officer's deck, one of the older officers came up to me and said 2 things, Baird. Don't hit any other ships and don't run this ship aground. Then you'll be okay.
Okay. Well, thank you for letting me interview you. It was nice meeting you and just talking about just overall how you serve.
Thank you. It was a pleasure. Appreciate it.
Okay, what is your name?
Paula Baird.
Okay, and when did you first meet Mr. Baird?
I knew him all the time that I was growing up. He moved there when he was in 7th grade, and because we went to the same church, but because he was older than me, I didn't really interact. He was in the same class as my sister, so I didn't go on a date with him until after I graduated from high school.
Okay, and like, where did you meet him, or just
Met him at church.
church? Okay.
Yeah, St. Canaris Catholic Church.
Okay, that sounds like a nice place.
Yeah.
And did you have like any feelings for him?
You know, when I was kind of surprised that he asked me out, and I had fun, and I didn't know if he'd ask me out again, but he did, and I thought, well, I kind of like this, so,
Okay.
you know.
And what did you do when Mr. Baird was like serving in the military, like more later on?
Later on, well, we were in Long Beach, California, and I taught 2nd grade at a school there, and we lived fairly close to it, so a lot of times I would just walk to school and walk back, and had friends at school, other teachers and stuff. So, and a couple of the other officers' wives were in Long Beach, so we would sometimes go out to dinner at night.
If you're like walking, that must be good exercise then.
Yes, yeah, it was good.
Okay. And then how or like what did you feel when you found out that Mr. Baird was having to go serve?
Well, at that time, the draft number, he had a low draft number, so I knew he was going to have to go into the military. It wasn't like a choice. His draft number came up, and so he decided to go the Navy. My 2 brothers had been in the Army, and I was glad that he was going to the Navy instead of the Army. It was just lots of people in the same situation, so you just accepted it. This is what's going to happen.
Yeah, good thing that wasn't like it wasn't like that bad for you. I'm guessing it wasn't that bad.
Oh, I was sad when he
Oh,
left.
okay.
Yeah, I was sad. It was hard to see him go off on the ship, but you know, I knew we had to do it. He wrote letters all the time to me, so
Oh, that's nice.
yeah. But we didn't talk on, you know, you didn't have telephone or cell phones or anything, so it was just by letter. So he's a wonderful letter writer too.
Okay, and then what changed for you when Mr. Baird went away to serve? Like,
What changed? Living alone was probably the biggest change, but we hadn't been really married that long when he left, so 6 months. So, you know, not having coming home to an empty apartment, you know, just me. It took a while to adjust to that. Fixing meals, you know. I didn't really do that. I did a lot of carry out or eat out.
Okay.
Yeah.
and like, when did you guys get like engaged or?
We got engaged before my senior year in college.
Okay.
Yeah.
And when did you guys get married then?
We got married in June after I graduated from college.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then, what was the best part of and worst part of him going away?
Well, the worst part was being alone, you know,
Yeah.
we were newlyweds and I missed him. The best part is when he came home.
Okay, yeah.
So I met him in Hawaii once for R&R when the ship was coming back, and so I flew over to Hawaii and met him there, so that was
Did you have a good time in Hawaii?
Yeah, it was wonderful, we had a great time, yeah, it was
Okay.
wonderful, yeah. It was, the funny thing about, I had never really flown on a plane, and there were all these TV cameras there. It was Los Angeles that I flew out of, and it was the first flight of a 747. So I had no idea what that was all about because I hadn't been on an airplane. So that was kind of fun. You dressed up. I wore a suit and heels. People don't do that anymore when they fly on a plane. And then when I got to Honolulu, I went to the hotel and checked in where we were supposed to meet, and he didn't come. So I called the base, and the ship had been in, and he had gotten there, and they checked him into one room, and they checked me into another room. So it took a few hours for us to meet up in the lobby.
Okay. And this is kind of like a repeat question, but like, what was the worst part? Or actually, what was the best part of him going away?
No, I don't know that there was a best part. I mean, you know, he had to serve, and it was for the country, and so I knew he was serving the country, so that was a good
That's
part.
good.
Yeah.
Okay. And last but not least, what were some stories that you heard or like from him?
You know, he didn't talk a lot about what actually went on. He told, you know, a few stories, but he didn't, he would talk about when he went into port and the different things he shopped for and things that he bought in different ports that were different than what you get in the United States. He didn't really talk a lot about, you know, the shooting guns. He was a gunnery officer. He didn't really talk a lot about that, so.
I'm guessing like he wrote about experience with like letters he wrote to you.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And then to continue that, did you like, or you contacted him with letters, right?
Right. We wrote letters back and forth. Yes.
Okay. Is there anything other than letters that you contact him with?
I think that was the only way, yeah, the only communication that you could have when they're out to sea. Yeah. And look off the top
How
of it.
long did it like take you to receive a letter or like?
Oh, it would probably take a week to 10 days.
Okay.
But I think he wrote one almost every day. So I got lots of letters.
And that's nice to know.
Yeah.
And I think that's all. Thank you for letting me interview you.
Oh, you did a nice job.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Thank you.